everyone. Today is November 18th, 2017, and this is the Duel Assessment, your podcast for Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links. My name is GreenRanger.
And I'm DeckTech.
And it's a pretty competitive time in Duel Links. Last week we were in the middle of Stage 1 of the Kaiba Cup, and then Thursday, Stage 2 started, and this is where all of the try-harding in the game and grinding goes. To see who gets the most points for rewards, and not only that, but who qualifies for the WCS, getting points for that. So, DeckTech, where are you in the Kaiba Cup?
So I ended up clearing Stage 1 to get all the rewards. As we talked about last week, I didn't need to make it to Stage 2 because I had gotten King of Games, but the rewards are really good, so I decided to go through with it. But I didn't do that until the last day. Before the stage switch. I think I had 9 hours left to do so or something like that. So I only played a couple PvP games in between. I saw a lot of people on our Twitter and stuff who were posting, and on Reddit probably, who were posting about having made it to King of Games and through to stage 2. And I'm like, all right, bro, that's a lot of games. So unfortunately I didn't have the time to do that, but I've now gotten a few games into Stage 2. Again, I'm not going super hard on it, but I think I've gotten about 9 games in, because my win rate, as far as I recall, was approximately 77%. Yeah. So I think that's 7 out of 9 wins. And even with just that few games, the win rate's good enough that I'm just barely in the top 10K. And if I if I get a good weekend in and continue to play fairly well, it seems like top 1K is pretty doable. At this point, the 1K break is 4 times my score, which, like I said, seems fairly doable if I just kind of sit down and have a couple good days worth of gaming. So hopefully I can do that. How's about you? Where are you?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a struggle. Well, last week I completed Stage 1 a few days after I recorded the podcast. So I'd say Monday. I got it a little earlier, so I had a few days off, sort of. And, I didn't get King of Games last time, of course, so I had to get this to get into Stage 2. So then I started Stage 2 pretty much right away when they announced it. So, yeah, it was very difficult that night, because...
that's the hardcore people.
Yeah, so I was just losing consistently then. And then, I switched over to handless, sort of. I'm not playing handless every game, but I used it, and I started winning games with that. But I've played close to 30 and 40 games right now. And I say this, I'm consistently 2 games above 500. So I just have a few wins of a buffer. If I lose a couple, I'm back to 50%, so... I'm between 50 and 55, and my ranking is between 5,000 and 10,000 as well. Just by getting volume, I guess, I am picking up duel points. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just...
It's the 2 methods that we have going.
Yeah.
I've played 9 games and won 7, and you've played 40 games and won, 23 of them or something.
Something like that, yeah. So... It's been tough. Ancient Gears hasn't been great, honestly, and Handless is the one that has got me, those few games over 500, but I guess this is what I'm going to be going with for now. And of course, last time I only got rank 10,000, so, I'm fine ending it here, but everyone else is going to move up, so I have to keep up, with the scores for that reason.
Right, because we're going to talk about it a little bit more below, but 10K is a pretty good break that if you are fairly committed and if you have a good deck and feel like you're a strong enough player, you should try to aim for at least 10K.
Yep. All right, so we're going to move on to the news this week in esports. We expected this last week, but there's not really any tournaments, Duel Links tournaments going on just because of the Kaiba Cup. You don't really want to divert your time. People are grinding the Kaiba Cup right now while we're recording this, but we're committed to this. We're looking forward to events next week. So there's this Duel Links Tag Team Tournament 3, which is run by Duel Links Pro, I believe, and it's like a 16 team tournament, so it's like teams of two where they do that tag team format. I'm not sure if it's a tag team format, but they win 100. It's $100 prize pool, double elimination game, tag team tournament. Yeah, some of these teams are already grouped together. Last time we saw Astro Assassin and Edgar Lopes, for example, they're back in a team. So I'm sure there are going to be like free agents again who will get paired together, and some notable people too, like Bookworm Forum. We've seen him around a lot. So yeah, that's going to be happening on the 25th, I believe, so exactly next week, after the Kaiba Cup is over.
Nice.
The card flipper campaign is wrapping up. I think it just wrapped up, or it's wrapping up today, I believe, because I did not get my second card yet.
Right, yeah, I think I'm flipping the last one in like a couple hours or something.
Yeah, cool. So there's this new card, Anarchist Mach Ranshin. Ranshin, 1800 attack, 100 defense spellcaster. When it's sent to the graveyard by an effect... No, when it's sent to your opponent's graveyard... No, shit. When this card is sent to your graveyard by your opponent's card, by battle, by effect, or by being destroyed, target one monster in your opponent's graveyard and banish it. So, this effect is actually pretty good because you could banish the Dakini or some other Cyber Angel, and then they can't use Machine Angel Ritual to help get that out. You could banish Red Eye Zombie. You could banish Nethys. There's a lot of things you could banish. The 100 defense is low, but you don't really care about that right now. So this is definitely a card to put into your Power of the Dark deck, just because it's a spellcaster and it has this strong ability.
Yeah, I think you're right that this is a solid card, but it's definitely not like a meta-breaking tier 1 card. So if you have a more developed collection, you probably won't be playing it, but it's great for like newer players.
Yep. And you're getting a second copy of Aurora Wing. It's a card I've seen before. Sometimes is a card that you just get out to get a free tribute summon the next turn or something. It's kind of like Treeborn Frog, sort of. The Duel-a-Thon is back, and this is one of our favorite events, as we say, as a joke. But
I don't know. It's kind of a favorite. Fan favorite.
It's a fan favorite. And, this is the event where you just get extra incentives for dueling and encourages people to do auto-dueling or whatever. And this time there is a new card called Quick Booster. It's a quick play spell. Target one quick play spell in your graveyard, except for Quick Booster. Shuffle that target into your deck. If this card you control is destroyed by your opponent's card and sent to the graveyard, you can add one quick play spell from your deck to your hand, except for Quick Booster.
Yeah, so this card is clearly kind of designed as a build around for some sort of like quick play centric deck. Obvious good examples would be Econ and maybe Super Rush, and unfortunately that's kind of not a thing that you can do at this point, for two reasons. One being that they only give us one copy, so it's hard to build around, and two, the dream is that you have it set, and then on your opponents, on one of their subsequent turns, they try to destroy it, and then you can activate it while it's targeted and get the one effect, and then it's still destroyed by the destroy effect, and you get the second effect. Yeah. I'm pretty sure. So that would be like, that's the 400 IQ play that you really want to make happen. But there's not really very much back row destruction nowadays. The only one that we saw for a little bit was Noblemen of Extermination, which we'll talk about in a sec. But now that there's so many Cyber Angels in Stage 2, and Cyber Angels doesn't usually run many things in the back row, there's not really that much back row removal. I guess the Gladiator Beasts have that one guy who destroys spells and traps as well. So yeah, there's a little bit you can do there, but again, even then, the limitation to only having one in your collection means you can't really rely on this card.
Yeah, very meta card is Sergeant Electro, and he doesn't destroy it. He just locks it down. So, and the Shinzeng Hu time when people were running that, I don't know if they still run that card, but it doesn't destroy it. So, 1.5 experience bonus. It seems to happen every other week, but it's back, sort of. Yep.
Yeah, I was thinking that this might be kind of a nod to them realizing that the player progression is a bit of an issue where they keep raising the level cap, but they don't comparably raise the rewards, which means that the rewards for growing levels at the end of the character's level growth are not as valuable as the ones earlier on, specifically the gems, because those are the easiest to value. Obviously, unique cards, if they're good, are more valuable. But to earn 200 gems at the end of your arc, you need to put in whatever it is, 30,000 experience, whereas at the beginning of your arc, it only takes 5,000. So that means that those 200 gems are worth 1/6 as much. And so I think that they might be bringing this back more often, both because they've introduced a lot of new characters, so they know that far more people are not max level yet, but also maybe because they've realized that there's this issue in their player progression, and for whatever reason they're doing it. I'm glad that they are doing it more often because it makes me think that they are listening to us about those issues. And hopefully we get more characters soon, so it's not in the situation where these events are wasted on too many people who have reached the max level with all this time left anyway.
Yeah, I'm a good example. I have so many characters between 35 and 40. Merrick's been 39 forever. It's like, oh, do I really want to get this Hell Poemer, or should I get these extra gems from this other character? So, yeah. Double gold and gate key event also ongoing. We seem to have multiple events going on, which is great. So, we're getting extra rewards. You have too many keys, the gate keys, right?
I do, yeah. They're just like before. They're just constantly. I can't even hold them all. I'm trying to buy stuff from the trader just to get rid of them. It's not going well. This event doesn't help me at all. I also have too much gold. I mean, not too much, because I can't max out. Well, I guess one probably could max out the gold, but I'm not near that. But I don't need any because I'm not getting things from the trader. So this event doesn't help me.
I don't have a ton of gold. I don't know why. I just don't get a lot of gold, or I use it all. It's weird.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, or maybe I have to batch convert to get back to normal.
Maybe.
Yeah. Free gems to celebrate the 1-year anniversary of the Japanese launch. So we're getting 1,000 gems overall through the course of a week. We got 300 the first day and 100 each day after that. So I just logged in my game and I got 100. So awesome.
Yeah. Nice. Free gems are always nice. This explains, I'm not sure if our listeners have been around long enough, but earlier on there was this complaint at the first Kaiba Cup about the quote Asian invasion, and it was because of the Japanese launch being a couple months before the USA launch, and I'm not sure about the other Asian countries compared to any of the other European or North American or whatever Western countries, but people all over Reddit were complaining that they had this advantage because they had a couple months worth to grind. Back then, of course, it was much more relevant than now, because now there's been far more time to make up that difference, and the decks that were oppressive back then aren't even relevant anymore. But there you go. They've been at it for a year.
Yeah, and now you could join any server you want. I don't think they had that before. You could switch over to some other server for an advantage, maybe. So now they kind of relaxed that thing. PvP opponents deck list now viewable. Okay, so this is only available right now on ranked, not on the Kaiba Cup, but after you duel someone, you can see their deck list. Exactly. You could see the name of the deck list. You could see all the cards in it as well. So this was pretty cool. I noticed this after I faced the same guy twice. And he actually added me as a friend, and we're exchanging vagabonds now, so we're cool now after I beat him twice. But actually first got a sniff of this when I saw on the chat above the game, someone was complaining about how they're pissed off because everyone's stealing his decks, and there's no privacy anymore. And this guy feels like he's super secret in his text, I guess, that he doesn't want people knowing his decks. And I guess that's the main issue that people have with this thing, but there are also a lot of benefits with it too.
Yeah, I think that one thing is that it's nice to allow people more opportunities to see stuff. I don't know too many people who actually use the deck board. And so this is another way for maybe people who aren't as in touch with like Reddit or other external sources like Game A to find deck lists. They have these other opportunities now. And I also think it's just kind of cool to be able to see how people build the decks. It can either help you deal with tilt or make tilt worse, where you're like, okay, he only needs one card to win, to get out, and then he top decks it, and you're like, okay, you take a look at his deck list and he only ran one copy, or he runs three, or whatever it is. I don't know. I've just found it interesting. I think this is the type of information that doesn't really harm the community in any way, I guess, except for that super brewer guy.
Yeah, but there are also people who, I've been on the Duel Links meta Discord, and people are keeping their deck list secret for the Kaiba Cup. This is something we've seen for the people who are super top level. They don't show their deck list until the end, or people who don't feel like sharing, I guess. But right, like they rightfully locked it out for the Kaiba Cup, I guess, right now.
Yeah, I agree with that. I guess maybe that's the distinction, that I think the latter isn't as competitive, and so I don't think that it needs that competitive protection. But right. I guess that's a good point, that some people might think that the latter is their competitive mode, and so they might be upset for that same reason that they want to lock it out. But I think one important difference is that when you do the Kaiba Cup, the top players are listed, and everyone can see who the top players are, and they're kind of like coming to a head, where I think the pairing would make you more likely to find people near you. I don't remember if they've done that before, or know if they've changed it if they hadn't. But so basically what I'm saying is that if you are an identifiable person because you're doing well and you're at the top, then people are going to look at your list, and then people are going to recognize you if they play against you, and people are going to know how to play against you. On the latter, that's not really a thing, because the top people aren't like named, and there's so many people playing that you're not going to really be able to like identify someone and be ready to play against them, I guess, is what I'm thinking. So I think that you're right that it is worse. It would be worse if it were in the Kaiba Cup, but as it is, I think it's kind of cool.
Yep. A gem investment guide was posted. Kaito of the Duel Links meta community, I think he's won a few tournaments. He's one of the top earners, I believe. Kaito wrote a gem investment guide, and it's a bit of a guide telling you what boxes you should buy because of the meta right now. Boxes offer different cards. So there are some cards that are in certain boxes that aren't even seeing play at all. So it's a bit of a way to inform people to make wise investments in their gems, because gems aren't unlimited. And every time you buy a box, or you go to the shop to buy a box, you should know what you're trying to get instead of just trying to buy the box. So DK made a video of it, and the recommended boxes to buy include Galactic Origin, Generation Next, Servant of Kings, Electric Overload, Crimson Kingdom, Dawn of Destiny, Valkyrie's Rage, Neo Impact, Flame of the Tyrant, and Ultimate Rising. That's a lot of boxes. The boxes they say to avoid for now include Echoes of Silence, Chaotic Compliance, Land of the Titans, Wonders of the Sky, and Age of Discovery. So we have the link to the video there. It seems about right? Like, I mean, we bought some of the boxes that they tell us to avoid, but it was a different meta back then. Like, you had to buy it. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. And this is also, you have to kind of take the 2 points in tandem. So the 1 point was that you need to know what you're looking for and specifically like go after that card or cards. And then the other point was that these are the sets that contain cards that you should be looking for. And so it's not to say that you should buy whatever this is, 10 different boxes, like just buy all the cards in all those boxes. Unless I guess you're a whale and you want to and you can. But the advice is to look through these boxes, see what you need, look at the decks that are performing well, see what you want to build, and then target things within those boxes. So that's kind of the shorthand. The video explains a little bit more, and then the actual like written guide is available to the Duel Links meta Discord people. Right. So you can always check it out there if you want to.
Yeah, for example, I got my third Sergeant Electro just by targeting Flame of the Tyrant. I had to start off the box again, and I got it halfway, so I guess it's okay that I got halfway, but I'm pretty much done with Flame of the Tyrant. I mean, I also got a bunch of other cards. If I wanted to be an annoying player, I got, all the golden apples. I got, like, a lot of warm worms, too, so,
right, yeah.
Useful mini box.
Right, yeah, I did the same thing. You guys might recall, I don't know, maybe a month or two ago. Yeah, but it's definitely a good box. It's got some legs because Sergeant Electro still sees play, Warm Worm does, and since it's a mini box, that one's nicer because it has fewer packs to have to buy through.
esportsearnings.com. There was an editor from the site who was looking for known players who competed in tournaments. So he was asking on Reddit, and the website is a bit like one we've seen for Hearthstone and other games called Gasu Gamers, where they kind of say what players are. Specifically, this person wanted to know what country people were from, because Gasu Gamers has the same thing where they have like a flag next to each person. But this site just adds the winnings from the tournaments. I think they've added the Duel Links meta ones, and then they're going to add the Duel Links Pro as well. Those are the two main tournaments that people know for earning money. And this is actually a big implication of Duel Links becoming an esport.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, if people are keeping track of the money, then that means both that they think there's a significant amount of money, but also that other people might look at that and say, oh, I guess maybe we should be hosting these events. Or alternatively, on the player side, maybe I should get into this game so that I can try to win some of this money. And so it's one of those phenomena where actually recording it kind of influences it. And we see the same thing with metas, of course, where the metagame changes as soon as a metagame announcement comes out, or Decade says what the top deck is or something like that. All of a sudden, everyone's playing that deck. So I think it's maybe going to be a similar thing with the earnings, where once it gets out there, and I had never heard of this website, but hopefully they have a nice range of influence. Once it gets out there, then maybe more people will come into the game and more money will come into the game as well. And I'd also like to see it go the way of Gosu and have like player profiles and player rankings at some point. But it looks like they're not doing that at this point.
Yeah, it's interesting how I guess the Duel Links esports community was grown up more grassroots, in that kind of like it went through Duel Links meta instead of an official Blizzard tournament thing.
Yeah.
Sort of. Yeah. Well, I guess they had open cups, but I guess they have to be like approved. I don't know how that works, but it seems pretty grassroots that they're doing it all through Decade and other people.
Yeah, for sure. I've said it before, but I just love what he and his community have done for this game. It really is amazing that they've essentially built the competitive community from the ground up. Like you said, it's really cool.
Yep. The second major announcement, which I forgot to mention in the intro, was that Duel Links was released on Steam, on PC, pretty much the night of the 17th, so between the 16th and 17th at midnight, exactly on the midnight Eastern Time, November 17th, Duel Links became available on Steam. And I switched over from my phone because I use a Samsung Galaxy S4, which, if you know, is super old. They're up to 8 now, so
yeah.
It's been a great relief. I'm not on my phone. I can use it for other purposes now. I don't miss calls and stuff. So I But right now, as we know it, Duel Links does not work on Macs. How is your like? What was the message you got when you tried to install it?
I sent it to you, but it essentially said it wasn't just like compatible or something like that. I
Right.
forget exactly what the terminology was, but essentially, when Steam is compatible, you can get that on your Mac, and I've done that. But when I actually went to the game and tried to download the game, it would not allow me to download the game because it was an incompatible file format or something like that.
Right.
And so hopefully that changes at some point. It would be nice. In the meantime, I have to go out and buy a computer so that I can play and stop being a scrub. But I don't know. I guess that's where we're at on that. Or
Yeah.
since you've played it and you've checked out all the features, why don't you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah. I noticed that it's a lot like the phone. A lot of things are like the phone, almost exactly the same. So I don't expect it to be off Mac for too long, unless there's some technical thing that takes them forever to do it. But I don't expect it to be gone for too long. But here are some of the main differences from the phone and Steam. Um, there's two panels. You know how Duel Links works? It's a really skinny. It's a really skinny screen. So there's a panel on your left and your right, and when you're not dueling, these things are blank. They just say Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links on them. But when you're dueling, the left panel has card information. So you see the card, and then on the bottom there's a whole big, very big section of the card description. So you know now you can't really use the excuse I don't know what this card does because it's right there now. Unless they're doing something really fast, and there's this card you've never seen before, and you're reading 20 lines of text, and then they do their move, and then you're screwed, kind of thing. But you know what the card does. You see the picture. It's all there. The right side shows your duel log. So, you know, the duel log, before you had to press another button in the settings, I believe, to see what people did. And now you can see it all. It cycles really quickly, though. Like, if you're playing against a Cyber Angels player and they're doing so many things each move, it just goes by. But luckily, there's a scrolling bar, so you can just use your mouse to go back and see what happens. And also to see what skill the person has to begin the game. That's really useful, too.
Yeah.
The deck editing screen has a new section called Card History. So it shows a pile of cards that were previously in the deck that you took out, or cards you put in and you took out. So there's a couple of cards there. And I actually find this section pretty useful for deck editing because I can't see the add and remove function anymore. In the phone, when you're editing the deck, you could click on a card and then you could just move up or down to add or remove. And that section seems to be gone now. So what I do is I take a card from my deck that I want to add more of, I put it in my card history, and then I just add more from the card history. So this is a new section.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. That I kind of do wish they had the add and remove function, though, because you don't really want to go back and search for every single card to add a third copy into your deck.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We'll see. You could use your Steam credit to buy cards. So I had $8 in my Steam credit I didn't use. So now I've been buying some cards for the UR sale. So it's pretty useful. If you have Steam credit, it just goes right in. It doesn't even ask you for your password. So you just say okay and send you an email, and that's there. Also, you get bonus gems and a third alternative art for Blue Eyes White Dragon. So now there's 3 different arts for Blue Eyes White Dragon. Just for logging on a PC. That's great.
Yeah.
And also, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say that what a fun, sexy time for you.
Oh yeah, fun, sexy time. And also, this has implications for people who want to stream the game. Previously, people were using emulators to play it on their computer, and now that's all gone. So it's a lot easier for people to stream the game. One thing that's a little harder is that people have to make their layouts again, I guess, because there are those panels that kind of take up space, and people have to decide what Twitch overlays go over which panels. So it's kind of tough for them to make their whole setup over again for people who are established streamers.
Yeah, I think it would make it a lot easier for a lot more people to start streaming the game, which again, to a certain point, is good for growing the community getting more influence and all of that. But there are a lot of people, such as myself, who had to resort to less popular methods of streaming. I liked the service that I was on, but it just doesn't have very many viewers. Not that I'm like, trying to make it big as a streamer or anything, but it's this system, having it on the PC just makes it a lot easier in terms of everyone already knows how to use OBS, and if you don't, you can just look it up on YouTube, and it's pretty easy. Even I set it up, and I know like nothing about computers for my other setup, so it's really nice. I am really hoping that I could get in on it soon because I think this is a great time to be a content producer for Duel Links.
And there's not going to be a guy asking you for stickers this time, right? Or coins? I forgot what he was asking you for.
I don't know. I mean, he might follow me.
It's pretty funny. Yeah, let's get Duel Links on the top page of streamed games on Twitch. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's go, team.
All right. The main section we're going to talk about is Kaiba Cup Round 2. It was live as of Thursday morning. And, this is a bit of a different thing because previously we didn't have a Round 1. It was pretty much Round 2 right away in the first Kaiba Cup. And that was with the DP system, the duelist point system. So
just
generally...
to jump in real quick, I think we did have 2 stages last time, but it was a different 2 stages. The first stage did have the DP system, like you said, and then I think the second stage also did, but it was just a cut to the top, whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So
we weren't allowed in the second stage.
Right. Yeah, we weren't there, but it did happen. So some people can let us know how that went last time. But
right.
Continue.
The dual point system basically works this way. When you win a game, you get about 1,000 points, and if you lose a game, you lose about 1,000 points. But it's not exactly 1,000. There's a bit of a plus minus, and DeckTech thinks it's because of measuring people's MMR or points, right?
Right. So I've noticed that some of the times in just the few games that I've played, some of the games I've gotten more than 1,000. I'm not sure if it's based on the streak, because there is that streak multiplier, or if it's based on your relative points, because the game assumes that maybe someone with more points is possibly better, so you kind of get more of a bonus for beating that person, or if there is an actual hidden player rating, which is the MMR, or some combination of 2 or 3 of those. So it's a little bit up in the air exactly how it works. I also remember when Mascaron was doing his interviews and stuff after the last Kaiba Cup, there was someone, I forget which of the people he interviewed it was, but someone said that the penalties became larger kind of as the event went on. So at the end, he was just watching where he was placing, and he would only play games if he dropped out of the top 10, because winning a game only got him 1,000, but losing a game lost him 5,000 or something like that. So at the late stages, it was worth it for him to just not play if he could avoid it. And so I'm not sure if that means if they're doing the same system this time, and if so, what that changes. Why does it switch over, and at what point? So there's kind of a lot of mystery involved, but generally speaking, like you said, it's about 1,000 for winning and about 1,000 for losing, at least at this point in the competition.
I also feel like you take more points, you lose more points for surrendering. I've only surrendered once, and I think I lost 1,060, and I've lost a game against Cyber Angels, and I lost 900. So, we don't know, but more or less 1,000.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
We should probably, at least until we figure it out, we should not surrender. It might be tied to things like your dual assessment score, even, because you get a 0 if you surrender. So that's another option.
Yep. All the Cyber Angels are here. You've had 9 games in your belt. How many of them were against Cyber Angels?
It's I think about 6 of them were. 6 or 7. No, 6. Because now I'm remembering all the other people. What?
Yeah, I'd say it's close to 50 for me.
Close to 50%?
Yeah. I mean, people exaggerate online all the time, and I'd say honestly, I think it's about 50%. It could be more, though. And that's a lot. And I said this to DeckTech. So previously, I was never really mad at Cyber Angels because I always kind of dodged them. They always kind of got ahead, and I never really had to face a ton of them. Even though I knew they were the best, I didn't really have to face a ton of them. This event really, I mean, no character is safe from not using Cyber Angels. Like previously, it was just Pegasus Mindscan, and that's the predominant one. But we see Taya. Taya's the weird character because when she's using Duel Standby, she could be playing Mill or Cyber Angels, and then when she's playing Life Cost Zero, Holy Guard, she's playing Gladiator Beast. So Taya's kind of the one you don't really know, but anyone who uses Restart and Balance is probably playing Cyber Angels in this Kaiba Cup. I've seen almost every character play it, and that's kind of the surprise factor that they're not playing Pegasus, but anyone could be playing Cyber Angels.
Right. When we were talking about it, I mentioned that the Mindscan version tends to be the strongest, but if there are like enough mirror matches, then that won't be the case anymore because, as we discussed earlier, Cyber Angels doesn't really play very many things face down. So if we continue to see this trend where a strong majority of them are Cyber Angels, then maybe it's time to switch it up again. I've already switched up my list from between stage 1 and stage 2 because the meta shifted so drastically towards Cyber Angels. And I might continue to do so. So it's interesting to see. I think that might be one way that I have an advantage as somebody who's played so much Cyber Angels and who understands how it works better than probably the average person who's using it, that I can make those adaptations based on what the meta's looking like.
And I found very little value in previously very good cards, like Mirror Wall and Wall of Disruption. Just because there are so many Cyber Angels, I don't really get much value out of those cards.
Yeah, I think Wall of Disruption is very strong in that it changes the way that the Cyber Angels player needs to play. But if they're running Mindscan, or even if they're not and they're kind of expecting a Wall of Disruption, then they can play around it. So it doesn't like break them, but it does slow them down. So for instance, if I'm facing a Wall of D, I'll try to tribute my guys differently so that I have fewer guys on the board, whereas the normal plan, of course, is to flood the board as much as possible and just win all in one turn. So the value of that one's a little bit understated, but you're definitely right. It's not as powerful as it used to be. Mirror Wall's not as powerful as it used to be because Dakinis get rid of the guy, so you can't, you can't do the trade value there. All the back row disruption cards aren't as good as they used to be because there's not that much back row. So it definitely causes those meta shifts.
I want to talk about the other tiers. Cyber Angels are clearly number 1, but I don't really see a ton of the other competing decks. From the Duel Links meta Discord, I've heard Ninjas might be number 2, but I have not seen a Red Eye Zombie. Ancient Gears are not doing great. Myself and others, they're not doing great. Gladiator Beasts are doing okay, from what I could tell. I am seeing a lot of the Holy Guard version of them. But it seems like the other tiers are just gone. Like, they're not competitive.
Yeah, I think that there's probably 2 things happening here. And one of them is that people are done experimenting. The stage 1 could have been a lot more experimentation, especially for the people who had already made King of Games, but also for the people who didn't really think they were going to compete in the Kaiba Cup, and they were just like, oh, well, it's here, so I'll try it out. Whereas now, at this point, especially early on in stage 2, because right now, when you started playing at the very flip of stage 2 was probably the most competitive, because it was the people who had already made King of Games last season and or already made it through stage 1. So they're like the people who were doing the best. And I think as the event continues, it might get a little bit easier on the bottom end, but harder, of course, to catch up to go to the top end. So I think that that's kind of what we're seeing in terms of people done experimenting, and so they're playing just the top decks. And then another thing is that you kind of get comfortable with a deck. So if you played a certain deck that did well for you in stage 1, you stuck with it because it was doing well, and then you made it to stage 2, and you're not about to switch gears now. You know, your deck that did well before not only did well, so you're confident in it, but is a deck that you are familiar with. And so it's hard to switch off of something. So that means that stage 2 is going to be filled with people who are more competitive, who are using a deck that did well in stage 1, so it's more likely to be the good decks, and are more comfortable with the deck. So I guess they're playing at a better rate. But I think that's maybe why we're seeing fewer decks now. Different archetypes, I mean.
I have seen a few junk decks, and when I say junk decks, I mean like someone who just joined the game or is free to play, who doesn't have that tier 2, tier 3 deck. It's like a best cards deck. I have seen a few of those in stage 2, which is kind of weird. But they might just be scrapping for the volume. Yeah, it's just I just felt like I haven't seen enough to the tier 2, tier 3s. And I've seen some of these junk decks, and then it's all Cyber Angels, so it's kind of muddled. The lower end is muddled.
Yeah, it's a little weird. I would think that even if you were like new and not aware of maybe the meta and stuff, that I think you would default to the ancient gears. But I don't know. Yeah. I guess not.
Maybe they lost enough of those games. They're just like, oh, I'll just play my beatdown deck. I have nothing to lose, or
yeah.
something.
I mean, I guess you're right. Maybe that is the case, because Ancient Gears does not match up well against Cyber Angels. You have to get probably just lucky with your econs and have everything kind of fall in the right order. But it's not a favorable matchup at all for Ancient Gears.
And econ's not that good anymore. I feel like just because there's more absolute angel rituals, they just reuse the old Dakini. Like, they have 2 of them in their hand, and they'll just play another one that turn.
Right, you're right.
Yeah.
The nerf, it definitely does hurt the deck, but that is one aspect in which it makes the deck slightly better against that particular counterplay.
Generally more rewards for playing and leveling. So we talked about the 10,000 rank, and this is the rank where you get the SR ticket, right?
Yeah, I should have pulled it up.
I think so, yeah.
But I do believe that is where it is, and let's just go ahead and confirm.
I think that 1,000 is where they give you 2 SR tickets.
So, pulling it up now. If you get into, I'm not even going to look at ranks 1 through like 100 because that's not necessary. But so there are breakpoints at like 10 and 5 and 2. So if you get to, I think basically if you play really, you get an SR ticket because yeah, if you play at all, you get an SR ticket and the mat, the play mat. If you end up with your last 3 digits, 777, you get another SR ticket. So that's
nice.
Fun. And then the rewards take a big jump once you get within top 1,000. Or sorry. Okay. Yeah, top 1,000 is where the rewards take the big jump because that gives you a UR ticket. So up until then, you're kind of getting rare tickets and more gold. So that's why we were saying you want to try to hit the 1,000 if you can, because that's where you get the UR ticket to add to your SR. If you get within the top 500, you get another UR ticket, and if you get within the top 100, then you get a different playmat, or a different icon, sorry, and you get 2 URs and 2 SRs. So that's for the hyper-competitive people, but I think most of us are probably going to be aiming for the approximately top 1,000 to maybe top 500 if you're pretty devoted, to get the 1 or 2 UR tickets as well.
Yeah. And I don't know if they've really stated which cards are in that ticket, because it seems like every ticket is a different pool, right? Like they add different cards to it.
Everyone is a different pool, but it does have the details / rewards in there as well. So if I look it up, for the UR, it's fairly standard. It's the things that we see frequently, the various player rewards. So you've got your your barrel dragon, you've got your dark magician girl, etc. We've also got Venu, bright bird of divinity here. We've got Pyro Rex, elemental lord. I think
he was from an event,
right?
Fire event, yeah.
Yeah, and
Venu was from Mai, right? Elegant Mai.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And the Frost and Flame Dragon.
Right, yeah.
But most of these are cards that you would get from the trader or from playing against duelists at the gate. So you don't want to get the ones that you could just get from the trader or from farming people at the gate, unless you specifically want them to be prismatic for, some reason. But those are the ones you can get elsewhere, so you don't want to pick those ones up. And the SR tickets are similarly a lot of cards you can get from various events, cards you can get from farming people at the gate.
The creature seizure?
Like
last month's?
Yes.
Tickets? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's in there as well. It's always helpful to me to do the your cards filter so I can see which ones I'm missing and decide from there. But this used to be where everyone would get their econs, but now we've had that for so long that now everyone has full sets.
Oh yeah, did I tell you this? I auto-dueled Kaiba, and he just gave me a prismatic econ. And it was such a struggle back then. Like, I would farm him for an hour and get nothing, and now I just auto-duel him, get 2 things, and one of them's a prismatic econ.
Yeah, them's the breaks.
Yeah, so make sure you know what you're getting, I guess. And you don't have to use these tickets right away. They have a bit of a expiration date, I believe.
Yeah, they usually do, and it always says that, on the ticket. I just check every once in a while to make sure that I'm not wasting my tickets. So I think there's, for instance, a couple that are expiring pretty soon, and or at the end of the month. So
right, cool. And there are certain bugs that are fixed now, right?
Right. So they just made an announcement that there are some issues that they fixed. One of them was that for some reason some players were not allowed to enter stage 2, which is a bit of a bummer. They lost I guess a couple days worth of time to grind. Yeah. And to fix that, they've kind of got this little workaround, which is weird. You have to change your region and stuff, and those people will be compensated with some duel points. There was also some issues, some minor bugs with the incorrect win-loss records that were corrected, but it looks like they're taking pretty good care of it. There's not really huge issues. There were minor bugs with the Steam launch as well, but nothing that seems too big either. So I think it's all these major changes going on at the same time always make you a little nervous, but it seems to be rolling out pretty smoothly.
There was a thread on Reddit, I don't have it anymore, but it was something about people getting a reward for something. And they were wondering what reward people got. And someone said they got a prismatic horn of the unicorn, and someone said they got 1 gem. So I don't know what's real and what's fake.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah. Um, Upcoming events. After the Kaiba Cup ends, we're gonna get Espa Roba for the first time as a roaming duelist. It seems. He doesn't seem to be playable right now, but he's been around the data mines for a bit, so it's possible he may be coming back down the line, just like Bones, as a playable character. And we have some of his cards here. I don't know if you want to go through these or just talk about them briefly.
Uh, yeah, we're getting towards the end, so why don't we just kind of mention the ones that
Right.
you think are there?
Yeah, so these cards are basically psychics and machines. So think about that. Um, it's notable we're not getting Jinzo though. We
Right.
do have to face Jinzo though in the farming though. So you're probably not going to be using any traps. People mentioned the no, that doesn't work either. The legendary fisherman, because you need the spirit barrier trap.
Yeah. I
Serb,
yeah, I
Serb
guess
maybe.
Serb is sounds like a good possibility. It obviously depends on what the rest of his deck is. But so
Yeah, these cards aren't that good. Some of them are just like you could see your opponent's cards. You pay life points to see your opponent's hand, like cards in their hand or cards in their deck. There's a card like Senri Eye. It's like Aroma strategy, but you pay 100 life points, which is nothing. So it's pretty much a free Aroma strategy. But yeah, psychics and machines. That's what we're getting.
that's right.
The Omega goggles. That's just a fun name. No Jinzo though.
Nope, that's the main takeaway.
And the last thing we're going to talk about is the Duel School Top Techs of the Week, and this is specifically for the Kaiba Cup. What's your update?
So I've kind of alluded to it a couple times now, but my main update is that I am now back off of Nobleman. I am not using it anymore. Nobleman of Extermination, of course. It was pretty good in stage 1. I liked it a lot because there was a lot more diversity and a lot of decks were running back row, and so it worked really well with the mind scan, so you could play around things and just get a lot of one-turn kills and all of that. But now that the matchups are significantly more Cyber Angels, I put 80% because that's like what I was seeing, but maybe somewhere in the 50 to 80% range, depending on where you are and how lucky or unlucky you are, I guess. They don't really run very much back row at all, and usually it's maybe just 1 to 3 cards that could even take up those slots. So I'd much rather just run my own econs to counter them, which is what I've done. I've put in an extra econ and a extra ritual to counter my opposing Cyber Angel decks, which means that I've actually reverted the deck to what I had it before I started looking at other people's lists and refining it for stage 1, which is kind of funny. But
That's fun. I'm going to go Ritual Stealing. I looked at every single card. I was pissed off about losing against Cyber Angel, so I was looking at every single trap card I had. And this is not a good card at all. Basically, the card is a trap card. Destroy one face-up ritual monster on the field. And previously, this was unplayable because you had the Machine Angel rituals, which would protect the ritual monsters. And this is still a pretty bad card, but there's a really good chance they're using that Machine Absolute Angel ritual to play Dakini, because there's 3 of those and 1 of the regular ones. So it's a 75% chance they're using that spell. So you could use this right away to kill a Dakini. I mean, the bad part is it's useless because then they could have another one in their hand and use the one in the graveyard to recycle the tribute summon. That's the main downfall of this card. Another play I've used to greatest success is I've used the Econ Take. So I take the Dakini, and as they're about to end their turn, I use Ritual Sealing on my own monster, which is the Stolen Dakini, and it gets destroyed despite them having a Machine Angel ritual because it's not in your graveyard. And this is a super low sample size, but once I put this card in my deck, I started beating some Cyber Angels. The Econ Take play happened later on, so I was happy about that. We don't have a ton of things, and this is a card you could just consider 2 counter Cyber Angels. I kind of cut out Super Rush or Mirror Wall for a Ritual Sealing. And I also have a Divine Wrath that probably works better. I probably should have put that as the top tech, but I had it in my deck anyways, so Divine Wrath plus Ritual Sealing, you'll get some wins against Cyber Angels. That's all I can say.
that's a lot of Cyber Angel hate right there. So
yeah.
That's one way. When the meta is so defined like this, if there really are that many of one deck, there are a couple things you can do, and one of them is you can play that deck and learn how to play the mirror match and get any edges you can there, or you can play some sort of counter deck or or a deck that has lots of counter slots like yours did. So those are kind of the 2 best routes for when the meta is oversaturated with one deck.
Yeah, and it's kind of like we're seeing a lot of the burn decks as well. Those annoying burn decks, I guess those are rising just to counter Cyber Angels. I don't know if they're that good against Cyber Angels, but I've been seeing more of those as well.
Yeah, the reason why those are decent against Cyber Angels is that the Cyber Angels have piercing, so even if the guy's in defense position,
right.
They can still get you with the whole kill yourself thing. But
Gear Golem too.
Yeah, Gear Golem. So there's some decent stuff to counter it. Ritual Sealing is something I've not heard people say before, though. So good on you for the crazy tech.
Yep. We're going to end it for today. We're going to give a shout out to Immigrant from the Duel Links Meta Discord. There was this community promotion thread, and I put the YouTube link to our podcast, and we got a OK sign and also a PogChamp from Immigrant. Immigrant sent me a direct message, says, likes the podcast, so thank you very much. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, it's really cool to have new people listening, and it's always nice to have somebody who obviously appreciates good and informative content to be one of those people. So thanks for everyone for listening and for appreciating it.
Yep. That's it for today. You can find us on the App Store, Google Play, Stitcher, and other things. Check out the podcast and more at our website, theduelassessment.wordpress.com. We have a YouTube channel if you want to listen to us there with the link. If you want to help support us, patreon.com/duel_assessment. Send us an email with any questions to duelassessment@gmail.com. Or you can find us on Twitter, duel_assessment, me, GreenRanger HS, DeckTech at HS DeckTech.
Yep, we love to tweet you.
Yep, alright. Good luck with the Kaiba Cup if you're in it. Don't go crazy.
Yeah, but do post about it if you do, and tweet us. We love to hear how you guys are doing. Seriously, don't go crazy, but we do want to hear how you guys are doing.
Yep. All right. Good luck, guys.
See you guys next time.